Welcome to Door Sports. It's been a while. We didn't talk about football, and I was waiting for the special guest. Finally, I got, and you guys now can see his name is Darwin Jalil. He is a vice chairman of Khalsa, I think Balestier Khalsa Football Club. This club is playing in Singapore Premier League. They are right now in Group B in position second, I think second or third, and they have been champion in Singapore Premier League and Singaporean Cup. So it's really, I think, help or happy for me that my audience can hear something inside from a vice chairman from the inside of football club, and we want to hear from you, not from me. So let's welcome to Darwin Jalil. How are you? And could you kindly introduce yourself?
Fantastic, Shoaib. Thank you so much for the introduction. Just a couple of corrections. We never won Singapore Premier League, and our season's over. So we're waiting for the new season to start. So before I tell you more about Balestier Khalsa Football Club, just myself, I've been involved in football for the past, I would say, 13 years now. I started from Sunday football team, right through the ranks of amateur football, and now I'm in a professional club here in Singapore. And at the same time, for myself, I've also recently gone through a journey with the FIFA diploma in club management, where he actually taught me a lot of things and opened my horizon to many parts of football, where it's very important for us in Asia to learn from.
Wow, this is really great. And you're doing a FIFA diploma, which is, I think, kind of very good for improving or developing football club. And as you are vice chairman of the football club, it doesn't matter how big is the club, it doesn't matter how small. It's all about football. You are trying to develop a club which will help the especially Asian people to improve the football wise where we can see in the future. And as a vice chairman, how do you define your leadership style? Because we always hear from the football players, football managers, we don't often hear anything from the chairman or vice chairman. So could you kindly share any insight news as a vice chairman? How do you define the leadership style as you are Balestier Khalsa Football Club?
Okay, so first of all, Balestier Khalsa is a very old and traditional club. It's been around for 125 years. So for me, if you ask me about my leadership traits, it would be, I would define it as paternalistic, in a sense where I'm still, in the heart of everything and making sure all parts of the club move. So not many people know this is a role in Singapore, which is a volunteer role. So basically, you're not paid. You give your hours and then you're expected to be dedicated to the job without a salary. But for me, it's something that I enjoyed doing. So um, how would I actually execute that paternalistic leadership in the club is actually to be in the heart of everything, from marketing to operations to even the role of a sporting director, signing players and all that. As you rightfully mentioned, people interview players, coaches, but these people like us are people who stay at a club for a longer time than the players and the coaches. So we kind of make a lot of key decisions that actually help the club to either excel forward or even can be on a decline. It all subject to the moments of football landscape, the economy, and there's a lot of factors that evolves around making decisions at my level. But most important is to keep people engaged, to give an opportunity for my staffs and also the players an opportunity to share their views, onboard their suggestion, and then put it together for the club to propel forward.
All right, it's like you have shared that as a vice chairman, like inside, you guys do a lot of things to like not just only about transferring football, not just about financial, or every single things, but through communication, through even like through planning a schedule for your upcoming season or after 2 seasons. Like, could you kindly tell us about the transfer news, how things goes, because it's very important right now, because it's also right now is a winter transfer in all over the world. So could you kindly tell us the inside this?
Okay, so usually for most clubs in Singapore, we tend to shop around the region. Foreign players who have played in Southeast Asia or those who have been into our league. We have a Japanese team that's playing in our league, so most of the time, out of a safe bet or convenience, we pick players from that club. But over the years, I think especially in these last 2 years, Balestier has evolved in the way we do our recruitment. So, of course, thanks also to a broader network with other clubs in South America, in Central America, and also Europe, where we actually get to assess players who are not within our environment. Of course, and like every player, there's always hits and misses. So to ensure that we reduce the risk of making a bad decision, we actually have a framework in place where we look for a certain kind of player that we want, and then we do a short list of it, and we weigh the pros and cons through a larger scouting network, if you want to say, which are currently dependable on the friendship and the network that we have with other clubs to help us give a brief summary of the players that we're looking at in terms of very specific qualities that we want. So Balestier have been a bit different in that sense, where previously the recruitment is just based on you want a striker and then you look for a striker, but now it's very specific. So you want a striker, what kind of striker? We want a striker that press up front, a striker that is mobile, a striker that is able to defend right from the top, because that's where a lot of times in our games we tend to concede at the back. People blame defenders, but actually it starts from the press up top. So these are kind of areas where I sit with the head coach and streamline on the kind of players, the qualities that we want, and then we go to the market to find these players. And in terms of negotiation and all that, you're right. We are into the winter window, so it's difficult to negotiate for players to come into a small league like Singapore. But like I said, there's always a vast availability of players, and it attributes to the good network that we have to be able to find certain players. And I won't be able to share so much on our new recruitment, unfortunately, because we are still in the midst of announcing them. But of course, we've got a very few good players. Like we got Riku Fukashiro from Japan, who we feel can give us the energy up top and also the high press that we need as a team, and link up play with the forward. And this is exclusive news for you. Today we're gonna announce the
Thank you
signing
so much.
of Ismail Sassi, who is a French Tunisian. He actually played for the national team, one cap for Tunisia, and he'll be joining us this season in the Singapore Premier League with Balestier Khalsa. So that's the exclusive news for your listeners out there.
Thank you so much. And as you just now you share with us the transfer inside, could you kindly tell us that how like world transfer goes? Because we just like kind of see the news through television, through Twitter, social media, newspaper, that Real Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester United, Juventus, PSG, when they make transfer, that goes easily viral. So like to compete with those big clubs, big names, like big announcement, like all the journalists, they used to follow that. So as your club is not big with its traditional and historical long way, and your club deserves something better, as a vice chairman, as a faith member, I will say. Like, how do you compare those transfer to your club transfer, or normally like a small club transfer?
Okay, so for big clubs, most of them have a long, exhaustive list of players in the positions that they want. based on the play style that they play. So it's the same process we have in a small club. The only difference is the target they have is, of course, they are in-demand players in Europe and across the world. But for us, it's a bit more of a challenge because chances are the players we're going to sign is relatively unknown at a regional level or a global level. So we would need to do a little bit more fact find on the player. And given that we are like you say, a smaller outfit than the bigger boys, we don't have scouts flying around everywhere to watch games. So what we do is we rely on technology, we rely on our context. So we usually get footage of full game videos of the players that we want, minimum 5 to 10 games, to understand the natural behavior of the player, to see the what the player does with the ball, what the player does without the ball, positionally where he is. So after watching 5 to 10 games, we more or less know his habits and the kind of advantage or disadvantage he will bring to us. And then from there, we streamline into a short list where we then go into negotiations, where we negotiate their contracts, the terms of the contract, and whether or not they come from an environment where we need to pay a transfer fee, or they are transfer free, as in no transfer fees. Yeah. So in a small club like us, we can't afford to pay transfer fees, right? So however, there's certain framework in FIFA like the training compensation, which solidarity payment, which we still have to pay if the player is below the age of 23. So these are facts that we have to consider in mind before making decision on certain players. Of course, every club wants young players, because when you sign young, you probably have a better return of investment. If he does well for you, you can sell him on to the next club or whatsoever. But young players come with a certain I wouldn't say baggage, but a fee. For example, if a player below 23, every club that he has played for before he signed pro, you have to pay them training compensation, you know. So we've got a few cases like that where a small club in Singapore called Balestier Khalsa had to pay clubs in Eastern Europe or you know, some European clubs training compensation for certain players. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much for sharing the exclusive news about your transfer club. And we just want to hear that how do you employ all the strategies to develop, or I would say improve your club, like all the sides, not just about players, all the sides. How do you do that?
So basically, as I shared before, we are a very traditional historical club. And the challenge is, of course, going into the digital world where everything today is social media, digital, and even like esports have become a thing. Balestier is the only club in Singapore that have a competitive esport team that competes on the FIFA e-circuit. So that is another dynamics of the club where we have to look after. And everything we do in terms of marketing, in terms of communication, is tailored to very specific people. For example, because we are a historic club, we have got a lot of older members, and we also got the young ones who follow us because of e-sport and all that. So we need to strike a balance. But the philosophy that we carry is we must be the storyteller, which means if you get the news, it's going to come from the club first. You're not going to hear it from the papers. You're not going to hear it from tabloid. You're going to hear it from the club, because that is the most reliable and factual source of news. So I always tell my social media team and my staff in the club that communication is key for us to translate how we have transformed as a club from a traditional club to now a savvy club, but at the same time embracing our tradition and history.
Well, I want to hear from you different story that you trip to so many football clubs as you are doing diploma in FIFA, which is really good news for my audience that they can hear inside of FIFA, because it's not very easy to hear from inside of FIFA, because it's very secret and all the things goes, and we just get the news. That's it. But we cannot hear inside how the FIFA goes normally, because there are a lot of controversial news, there are good news, always there is a news about FIFA. So actually, as you are traveling all over the world, I will say, because you have been traveling FIFA World Cup, you have been to FIFA Club World Cup, and so many football clubs. Do you like as you are doing diploma? So traveling to all over the world doing diploma, actually, how these things like FIFA does easily, because FIFA doesn't have diploma course. They have like all over the world football, just they just know like where these things going well, which country is well. So how do they do these things easily?
Okay, so basically, of course, the FIFA is a world governing body for football. Uh, I think this program is a very great initiative by FIFA because the heart of football is at the clubs. You know, well, the national teams, the World Cup qualifiers happens every now and then, and the World Cup once every 4 years. But the real football is day in and day out at the clubs. So for FIFA to come up with a program like this to actually educate club executives, club owners, and give them an opportunity to network and learn from the various continents, I think this is a beautiful program that they've came up with. I'm
Could you kindly
grateful to, yeah.
could you kindly share us the what are the programs you are doing and what the actually they offer?
So basically, we study the various parts of football. If you break it down, it's a little bit of finance, also marketing, and technical perspective. How do clubs work with technical directors, with head coaches? How do they handle them in terms of their demands, and then how do they strike a balance between being financially prudent and also being sportingly excellent? So it's a
Yeah.
very fine balance because, especially in Asia, we are famous for rich clubs spending like there's no tomorrow and end up in a financial situation down the line. So it's important for us to learn from the various clubs. I mean, throughout this course, we've been to big clubs, but we also been to very small clubs where it's really based on run on volunteers or run on a very small scale manpower, but still competing against the biggest clubs in the world. So it gives us an insight to speak to these people to understand in their perspective how their football is run and how their fan base react to certain things and the ownership behind the club, because not all clubs in the world, including in Singapore, is not a private limited company. It's mostly run by members association or by societies, right? So it's important to understand the demographic of the club, the ownership of the club, and how um, then money is invested back into building the club for future.
Okay. You have been traveling. I saw your social media that you have been traveling to Al Nasser, Al Hilal, like Saudi clubs, and as an Asian guy, traveling to Saudi, I mean Asian clubs, Saudi Asian, like Al Nasser Asian club. They like before coming to Ronaldo, have you ever thought that you are going to travel to Al Nasser? Like this tournament is gonna happen, you're going to travel, or how Ronaldo, like as your vice chairman, like where do you see that Ronaldo after coming to Ronaldo, like Asian football is growing at like very high level, like so many famous players they're coming to Asia, but not only Saudi Arab. We can see India, they brought few good players in ISL, and I would say even Qatar, they're like they're just bringing like Jabi, like a lot of big names. But after coming to Ronaldo, just Middle East or Asian football just goes viral easily.
Of course, I mean, we picked the first question first, whether I saw myself going to Saudi clubs. In fact, I visited Saudi clubs before, in my time in football, even before my FIFA diploma. But I would say that today, the big four Saudi clubs, they have actually propelled to a very high level. I remember my recent trip there, I visit Al Ahly, who actually built their performance center in 55 days, which is amazing. It's unheard of in Asian football. So that's the kind of commitment that Asian football have. When we bring these big stars to our region, we also need to make sure we have the facilities to upkeep them, to make sure that they perform at the highest level. And that brings me to answer your second question about the Ronaldo effect on the Saudi Pro League. Of course, a player of Ronaldo's scale, and of course a lot of players across, if you're talking about even Qatar, like you say, ISL, or even China before this with Oscar and
Yeah,
Hulk and all that. You know, as much as um, the news and the sensation of it going viral, we always have to question the sustainability of the investment, you know. So it's good to put um, Saudi Pro League out there, and I think they have a roadmap to be the top 5 leagues in the world in the next 5 years. So it's good to have a persona like Ronaldo and all that keeps you be the talk of the town and also attract other talents to come and play. But at the same time, what's very, very important for any country who wants to go down this route is to make sure that you have enough facilities, you have a very good marketing plan to get the people bums on seats. You know, you got to have fans to have football. You know, if not, it's going to be very hard to sustain um, the motivation of these players. Even we're not even talking about money, we're not talking about the being able to afford their salaries, but to keep them motivated to play in front of a crowd, which they used to have in Europe, is something which Asia needs to look at. Which means we also need to think of ways to actually improve the sporting culture in Asia. There are a lot of football fans out there, but when it comes to reality of paying money for a seat in the stadium, there are not many. You know, we've come to I've traveled to many countries. You know, it's always a struggle unless it's a national team, but club football is always difficult to put bumps on seats. And that coming to that, I mean, there was some question about financials in your uh, questions to me. That's where I believe in. Okay, so I just came across the terminology of this financial approach very recently on the course, but it's something that the club has always done. So what the club does is we only spend what we have. You know, we don't spend more than what we could afford. So during my time in my diploma, I came to know that we were doing a case study on Udinese, and then
okay.
it was termed as grandma economics. You know, spending what you have is termed as grandma economics. You know, like our grandmother, you know, they only spend whatever money they have. So this is the approach where Balestier have done, and we were. I mean, we've been around since the start of S League in 1996. As an entity, we are still here 27 years later, and 29 years later. So that is the key to the longevity of the club. You know, so going back to Saudi is the same. The sustainability financially is very, very important to make sure that it goes beyond, because their roadmap is 2034. So it is quite a distant away, and to keep 10 years of people on their edge of their seats and on their toes in excitement is something that's going to be very tough to maintain week in, week out.
Okay, as we are going to finish the interview, the last question is for you. As you are a vice chairman of football club here, Balestier Khalsa Football Club, and as a council member of the Singapore Football Association, where would you like to see your country in next 25 years? Like Singapore as a country, and as a Singapore Premier League, where would you like to see?
Okay, so I mean, I'll be very frank. The level of football in Singapore now has been on a decline for a couple of years now, and of course, there are certain issues where I feel this is my personal opinion, not in an opinion of my professional standing in any of the organization. The real problem lies with everything is very segmented. You know, there's too many different visions on different parts of the stakeholders who wants to do different part of football. So we need to have a united strategic plan moving forward where we want to achieve in 25 years. My personal dream is to see Singapore qualifying for the World Cup, of course. But I know it's a tough order, but there are a few things that we need to address and
Clarify.
revisit. Yeah, one is youth development strategy of how we want to achieve in terms of the coaches' education, the administrators. like I said to you before, there's a lot of volunteers here in Singapore football, and I recently posted this. I'm not sure if you caught it.
Yeah, I saw.
I said about amateur foot. I mean about volunteerism. So as long as football is run by volunteers, it will always be amateur. You know, it can never be
Yeah, that's
professional.
true.
So if you want football to be professional and have good accountability, then you need to start to create jobs for leadership to run clubs. You know, unfortunately, not every leader in every club is a football person. They might be a good businessman, but football itself is a unique business. You know, it's something which not many people understand. It's one of the toughest business because things changes all the time. It's not like a matter of a supply and demand, but also the human factor to it. Getting the right balance of players, getting right balance of staff at the club is a very difficult business. But you know, there are only very few people that can do this, and the industry needs to have more professionals who are able to take the sport forward. And most importantly, Singapore is a very young country, and for such a young country, in terms of economics and in terms of technology, we have grown leaps and bounds. I don't think it's an issue to actually improve the game, but we need to first sit down, reflect, and ask what's best for Singapore football moving forward. I think that's the most difficult question and the elephant in the room that we need to address.
All right. Thank you so much for your valuable time. And we're really, really happy to having you. And yeah, we can't wait to see you next time. And have a great
Sure.
day.
Thank you, Shoaib. Thank you.